Hi friends, good morning. Happy New Year. And welcome back to Midweek Morning Encouragement. I hope you're doing really well today. My name is John Tracy, if we've not met before, and I'm just thankful for another opportunity to spend a little bit of time with you in the scriptures right here at the beginning of a new year. I'm going to read over you a portion that I've selected from John chapter 21 in just a moment. But before I do that, let me just give you a little context for that chapter. It's actually the very last chapter in the book of John. And I love how it ends. I just think it's so beautiful. The disciples are right back in Galilee, where they had spent so much time with Jesus during his earthly ministry. And it would appear that after Jesus' death on the cross, a number of them had actually gone back to that area for the sole purpose of once again pursuing their trade of fishing. You remember, that's what they were doing, several of them, back when Jesus originally called them to follow him. And so they're out there in the middle of the night, they're fishing again. And here comes Jesus. He appears to them, and he basically does a repeat of one of the miracles that he had done a few years before when he first called them. They're right back where they started. And once again, wouldn't you believe it, they can't catch any fish. I mean, they don't seem like that great of fishermen. But Jesus says, just like he did the first time, hey guys, cast your nets on the other side. Same thing he said before. And if you remember, when they listened to him the last time, what happened? They ended up getting a huge haul of fish as a result. And in fact, that was when Peter fell down on his knees, and he responded by saying, depart from me, Jesus. I'm a sinner. Like, I can't even be in your presence. But Jesus had planned that miraculous event intentionally to call Peter to be his disciple, to show him his need for a Savior. And Peter did start following him on that day, along with several of his buddies. I mean, whatever that catch of fish was worth from a financial perspective, they evidently just left it right there on the shore, and off they go to follow Jesus. Well, a whole lot has happened since then. And I just think it's so beautiful here at the end of the story of the Gospel of John that the resurrected Jesus Christ comes to them, and he gives them all those fish back again. He calls out to them across the water, and then he has this special encounter with them on the shore where he cooks them a breakfast and spends some time talking with them around the fire. I've been to the Sea of Galilee and taken a little boat ride across it. I've stood on the shoreline there, and it's really not that big of an area. So I can see in my mind where this all took place. And while they're there on the shore around that little fire, Jesus had a very intentional conversation with Peter. He asked him 3 different times about his love for him. And by the third time, Peter's getting, pretty sad about this conversation. He's like, why do you have to keep asking me if I love you? You know that I love you, Jesus. But those 3 questions were intentionally designed by the Lord to restore Peter to a place of usefulness after his 3-fold denial of Christ, as well as to prepare him for the ministry that Jesus wanted him to do for the rest of his life. And as we wind down into the final sentences there of that scene, and it's the end of the book of John, really it's the very end of the historical data that we have on the life of Christ during his earthly ministry in the entire Bible. We hear him say something to Peter that is just incredibly pointed and profoundly important for every single one of us to understand as his modern day disciples. I want you to listen to what he says to Peter starting in verse number 18. Truly, truly, I say to you, when you were young, you used to dress yourself and walk wherever you wanted. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands, and another will dress you and carry you where you do not want to go. Parentheses, this he said to show by what kind of death he, Peter, was to glorify God. And after saying this, he said to him, follow me. But Peter turned and saw the disciple whom Jesus loved following them, the one who had been reclining at table close to him, and had said, Lord, who is it that is going to betray you? When Peter saw him, he's speaking of John, he said to Jesus, Lord, what about this man? And Jesus said to him, if it is my will that he remain until I come, what is that to you? You follow me. And so here's Peter. He's trying to take in all the news and process what he's hearing Jesus say about this prediction of his own suffering and eventual death. And no sooner does he hear what Jesus is calling him to bear in the future, but he looks around and he sees his buddy John. And did you hear what he asked Jesus, what he said to him? He's like, well, what about him, Lord? I mean, if I'm going to have to die a martyr's death for following you, then what about John? And it's Jesus' answer that I just think is so pointed and so insightful for every one of us. He says, you know what, Peter? If I want John to remain until I come back for him, what is that to you? You don't need to worry about John. As for you, you just worry about following me, Peter. And it's interesting and important for us to realize that those are the very last words recorded in any of the 4 Gospels that come from Jesus' own lips. What is that to you? Just follow me. I mean, if we could only make it our habit to ask ourselves that question every single time we are sucked into some type of comparison with other people. Anytime we start to feel like our lot in life is a little bit harder than others and the path that Jesus has led us down is more challenging and as a result it's not fair. Anytime we think that somebody else's life is just going a little bit better than ours. Because friends, our job is not to worry about how Jesus is leading and directing other people. Our job is simply to follow him with all of our heart, mind, and soul. And so if somebody steals your parking place today, when you're trying to get your groceries at Publix, what is that to you? Just follow Jesus. If you walk into your office today and somebody says something that you don't like, and you know in your heart that depending on how you react in that moment, that could blow up into an argument. Why not stop and think, what does this really matter to me? I just need to follow Jesus in this moment. Maybe you're dealing with some internal politics at work, and one of your coworkers is trying to get a leg up in the company, but he's doing so by treating you unfairly. What is that to you? Follow Jesus. I mean, even if you are enduring some difficult season of hardship or suffering or sickness or whatever else, what is it really that is going to affect in terms of your responsibility to follow Jesus Christ? How much conflict and discord and anxiety and anger could we just totally sidestep if we would simply pause and remember in those moments that none of that really matters at all? It's nothing to us. It doesn't change anything about our relationship with the Creator through Jesus Christ the Lord. It's all just temporary. It should have zero power at all over our attitudes and actions. And so let me just encourage you today to carry that question around with you and start putting it into practice. That before we would pick up an offense and charge into some little, relational battle, that we would hear Jesus' own words like ringing in our ears. Like, really, child of God? What is that to you? What does that change for you? What effect does that little situation have on your eternal security in the gospel? You don't need to worry about that. You just worry about following me, says Jesus, and everything's going to be okay. I've got this. What is it really to you? Follow me. Thanks for spending a few moments with me here for Midweek Morning Encouragement. If you'd like to receive these kinds of Wednesday devotionals from Keystone Bible Church by text message every single Wednesday morning, then you can just text MME to the number that you see right there on the screen, and we will make sure that it is sent to you every single week. I hope you have a great day. Let's do our best to follow Jesus faithfully, and I'll see you again very soon. God bless.